Hi guys, so I'm going to do this interview on a rainy day here in San Diego. So let's get started. Number one, my name is Joel Myers. I'm a tennis coach from Melbourne, Australia. I've been in San Diego now for 10 years and I coach in Coronado. My tennis background, so I was born in around Sydney, moved to Melbourne at the age of about 12 and started training at Melbourne Park, which is the home of the Australian Open. And I ended up playing a lot of junior tennis in Australia and then moving over here to college around 20, when I was about 20. And I played there for 4 years in Point Loma Nazarene University in San Diego. And then I started my coaching business here in Coronado and downtown in San Diego at the Hyatt, Manchester Grand Hyatt, and the Sheraton at the Harbour Island over from the airport. It was definitely my serve, so I'm pretty tall, I'm about 6'6", so serve was always something that I could control the point with aggressively, and that way I didn't have to run as much, which was nice. I think my family is a big tennis playing family. We used to watch a lot of tennis on TV, and I think I just picked that up from watching tennis, and it was super athletic. There was a lot of varying styles in the 90s when I was watching. You could be a serve volleyer, you could be a grinder, you could be an all-court player, and I just loved the variety, loved the different ways that you could win points, and even more importantly than that, I think I like the individuality of tennis, where if you do well and you win, it's on you, and if you lose and you play poorly, it's on you as well, so you take responsibility. Everybody knows this one, there's no doubt. It's the serve. The serve, if you don't have a good serve, you're going to be behind the eighth ball on every point that you play on your own serve, so you need to have a good serve. It's just a necessity. The biggest influence in my tennis career was my coach, Jamie Parrott in Melbourne. He took me under his wing when I moved to Melbourne, and he helped me out so much, so thank you, Jamie, if you ever see this. I became a coach early when I was like late teenager, and it was something to earn a little bit of extra money while I was training and still in school, and I started saving to come to college, and then I just really started to enjoy it. I didn't think I would at first, but now I really love it. It's an awesome job. I couldn't imagine doing anything else. I think it varies from player to player. I think I'm hard but fair sometimes. I think you got to be able to talk to your players different ways. I think you got to find different ways to motivate them, but I'm flexible, so I don't have one rigid way of coaching. I think I change it from player to player. Probably that I don't know everything. I know a lot more now than when I was playing and when I started coaching, so I think that's changed for me huge. And you never know everything. You have to keep learning and you have to keep researching, and I think your clients and your lessons will really appreciate the fact that you're putting time in off the court to learn and to come up with fresh ideas and mix it up for them. So I think I've learned that not everyone has to hit the ball the same way. There's definitely commonalities in strokes, but everyone's a little bit different. You can still be successful with different ways of hitting the ball and different ways of moving to the ball. I think sometimes a personal challenge for me is seeing tennis from a total beginner's eyes. I think sometimes as tennis coaches, when you see a lot of good players, you tend to take for granted the little things, and you don't quite understand the same way, or you don't quite look at things the same way as a total beginner would. So I think sometimes you've got to step back and really rethink everything from fundamentals and from scratch when you're coaching a beginner, and I think that's the hardest challenge for me sometimes. I think the most important advice I could give to a young tennis player is that it's not about winning or losing. Winning or losing is something that you can't control. It's about going out on the court with the mentality that you're just trying to play your best. And if you play your best, you're going to give yourself the best chance to win. But sometimes winning is just out of your control, and if you go in with the focus that you have to win, a lot of times you don't quite perform as well because of that. You have the wrong focus. So I think performance goals, not outcome goals, is the way to coach young kids into playing their best, and they're going to do that more often. Well, I think discipline is a necessity if you're going to be any good. It can be trained, but I think it's the earlier that you are disciplined in your approach to practice, your approach to matches, the better you're going to be as a tennis player. And I think that's probably true for everything in life. But I think it's a huge key to being successful is discipline. what are some of the things you enjoy in coaching? So I really enjoy teaching someone something new for the first time and watching them grasp it. I think that's exciting for me. I can sort of reuse me from a tennis perspective, because I remember how exciting it was when I learned something new, or I got a new concept or a strategy. I thought that was awesome, because there's so much to learn in tennis. It's really interesting. I've got some really good young juniors. Really excited to see what they can do this year from an improvement standpoint. And I got some competitive players, so we've got some goals set tournament-wise for this year. So sort of looking to assess how they go and see if I can help them and reassess goals as we go along in this year. So when I was 14, I had stress fractures in my back. That wasn't fun. That was about a year out of the game. But actually the worst injury I think I had was I tore my rotator cuff playing Aussie rules football, which was dumb, but that took me about a year as well. So I missed quite a bit of time as a junior, but I always had the mindset of when you're injured is that there's always other places that you can improve. And if you have that mindset, you can improve. There's a lot of things that you can do off the court to improve if you can't hit balls. So don't give up. There's a lot of things you can still achieve if you're not hitting tennis balls. Probably 2002, I got to hit with some of the Davis Cup guys in Melbourne, and that was really exciting for me. I got to spend particularly some time with Wayne Arthurs on the court. He had an awesome serve. I admired his serve, and he showed me a little bit about the kick serve. That was a huge moment for me. So that was really exciting when I was a young kid. What strings do the pros use? Pros mostly use either polyester strings, or a mix between polyester and gut, the top pros. And sort of the trend has been to go down in tension over the last 10 years, I guess. You used to see tensions mid-60s, high 60s, and now it's much lower than that, so that's interesting. But yeah, poly and poly blends, or pro blends. For me, I think it was just a way of sort of getting my name out there a little bit and showing people that I knew what I was talking about. And if they like my style, they can come and take a lesson from me, and if they don't have to. But I thought it was something that keeps me interested in continually learning, and also it really has helped motivate my students. When I put them on video and on Instagram and stuff like that, they really try hard. So I thought that was something. I think it's the way coaching is going, and I think you've got to be with the trend a little bit. I think if there's something that a student of mine is particularly struggling with, or something they're doing really well, that'll sort of spark me to make a video or write a blog post about it. Or if there's something I've been watching on TV, if I watch a lot of tennis, that's another time that I'll definitely be inspired to do something. I've got to say Roger Federer. Nadal's very close, but Roger Federer, just his consistent performance over the longevity of his career has been amazing. Also, he's all court. He can do everything on every surface. I think that's amazing. So I think he's probably the best tennis player I've ever seen. Obviously, the Grand Slam counts as greatest of all time. But mentally, I think Nadal, his approach to tennis is just on another level completely. So I admire both those guys, but I think Federer is the greatest of all time. Federer is still number one. He's still the best player in the world right now. He's playing brilliant first strike tennis, and his serving is just off the charts. I think he had his best serving year last year, which is just ridiculous. You watch him control points on his serve is quite amazing. Female, I think it's definitely Serena when she comes back and gets better. Similar type of thing. First strike tennis, she just seems to dominate consistently from for her first serve, even her second serve, and then she dominates her opponent's second serves. So she's just on offense at the start of the point, every point, and it just wears people down. It's going to be Nick Kyrgios as an Aussie, and his playing style, I think it's awesome. Once he finds a way to be more consistent week in and week out, I think he'll be a huge force. And then probably also Dominic Thiem from his intensity perspective. I think he just brings it every point. I think he's got a lot of potential, and I think he'll probably win the French one day, the way he hits the ball. What do you think about the new rules that appear in the next gen finals, especially the player coaching? Do you see it having entertainment value or real value to the players? As a coach, I think it would be awesome. I've seen some of the WTA coaching, and I think that's really interesting to see what strategic points are brought up at the change of ends, how the players react to their coaches, and I think it would be of value to see that at some point in the future. I think eventually it may get there, but there's also that debate about whether it's fair. Some players can't quite afford the coaches, and the higher levels can, but I think it'd be good for the game. I think people would be interested in seeing it, and so that's my opinion. I stopped playing competitively a few years ago just because my coaching schedule became really packed, and it's hard to focus on your own game and give the same intensity when you're out on the court so much. So I've sort of transitioned from a player to a coach now, and that's my priority. Do you think it's important to cross-train? Absolutely. I think running, lifting, stretching, yoga, swimming, all of that, I think you've got to do as much as you can. You're an athlete first and a tennis player second, so you've got to make sure your body's ready to go, and you've got to be able to do everything. There's no good being great at one thing, great with your speed but not great at your agility, or great with strength but not with power. So I think you've got to be able to do everything, and cross-training really helps you, especially in the off-season.